Hello, stroke warriors out there and their care partners. I'm coming to like that new phrase, care partners instead of
Oh yeah,
caregivers.
that's good. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, one of the people I know, they said they called her a caregiver in the hospital, and she said, "No, I'm his wife."
Yeah,
So,
yeah. I know
well,
I've been a little weird about calling my husband my caregiver.
yeah, exactly. So I like care partner, because we
Yeah,
do
that's
we do
great.
that for each other. So
That's right.
anyway, our guest today is Rachel Miller. Hi, Rachel. How are you?
Hi. Hi. Actually, last name is Abassi now. I got married
Oh, that's right. You
on
did. And
Valentine's Day of last year. Yeah, so I've been in the process of switching over, but
yeah,
which, takes a while.
yeah. That's why I put Rachel Miller Abassi on my records, so
Yeah.
till it gets all done. Well,
Yeah.
where do you hail from, Rachel?
I am in Sterling, Virginia.
Oh, okay. Have you been there long, or is that where you're born and raised? Or
Yeah, born and raised in Leesburg, Virginia.
oh, I've been
So,
there.
yeah, it was just a small town when I grew up, but now it's become Loudoun County, I think, is one of the fastest growing counties in the United States. So, there's a lot going on here.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, but it's
I
nice. I mean, you definitely, if there's anything you want to do, anything you want to order for food, guaranteed it's here.
okay. You find any good Italian restaurants there?
Yeah, we have one right up the street,
Oh,
actually.
good,
Yeah,
good. I
yeah.
hardly ever go because I cook Italian myself, so
Cook your own.
it's usually not as good as mine. At least that's what I like thinking.
Yeah.
Anyways, um, can you share the story of your stroke and the initial challenges you faced?
Yeah, sure. Well, my stroke happened uh 3 years ago. So it was June of 2021. And I was just working that day, and it was about 3 o'clock or something like that. And I had taken my dogs out to use the bathroom, and I was outside with my Weimaraner, and I was talking to myself, as us most intelligent people do. I'm kidding. But I was talking to myself and like kind of whispering, and what I was thinking was not what was coming out of my mouth. So I could not form the words that I was thinking. And it's just like my heart dropped into my toes. I'm like, what is happening? So I went inside and met my boyfriend kind of in the foyer, and he looked at me, and I said, I can't talk. And he was kind of like looking at me like I had three heads. But he knew right away that that was a sign of a stroke. I'm glad that he did, because I had no idea what was happening to me.
Right.
He ended up taking me to directly to the hospital, which is about 15 minutes from my house. And they immediately got me in there and started preparing me to get a clot buster. So the initial symptoms that I had was that inability to say what I was thinking. I was trying to read to my son to show him what was happening, and I knew what the word was, but I couldn't say it. So it was really bizarre to be feeling that way. So in the hospital, I had to make the decision. This is one of the things that I felt was really weird. When we're having a stroke, we're in the hospital. My boyfriend's standing there, and they're telling me, "We can give you this clot buster. There's an 80% chance that you'll have an additional brain bleed or something like that." And I have to just make that decision like right away,
And that's kind
that
of weird asking a stroke survivor with a stroke person with the cognitive issues they're having immediately.
right. Yeah, exactly. I'm like, later on, like in retrospect, I'm like, I was making a decision to save my life at a time when I was having the stroke. So it was really, it just didn't make a lot of sense to me, but thankfully I was had the wherewithal to kind of make that scary decision that yeah, I'm going to do this, knowing that there could be some really terrible side effects to it. So while they monitored me very closely during that first hour and kept talking to me, they actually kept asking me what kind of dog I had because Weimaraner was one of the words I couldn't say while I was having the stroke. So by the end of the hour, I could say Weimaraner. And so that's how we knew that things were better. I did get admitted into ICU for the night. But during this event, it really did not appear that I had any long-term deficits. It was not apparent. I had a hard time remembering words after that. I'm still challenged with that, but nobody can really notice it. I notice it. I notice
Yes.
how hard I have to work to talk now. But it seems like nobody else can really notice. It's worse when I have my other deficits and pain starts kicking in. And what that is ever since I had my stroke, I've had a headache every day, every day since I've had my stroke. I went to the neurologist and he said, huh, that's unlikely that stroke survivors have headaches. Why don't we try this medication and come back and let me know if it's, how you're doing. It didn't work. So he wanted to increase the medication. So I increased it. It didn't work. And by then I gave up already. I gave up. I'm like, um, it'll just go away. So I stopped going to the neurologist and because he was like, come back after a year. If you still have the headache, then we'll do, the next thing. I'm like, yeah, what? So you're telling me I'm gonna have a headache for a year before you do anything about it?
Yeah, right.
Yeah, so guess what? I had a headache for a year and I went
Uh,
back and he said, okay, well, let's try this other medication. That didn't work. So long story short, I was trying several medications. None of them did anything for my headache. And the other thing that I was noticing was this inability to tolerate movement. So it was either something moving in front of me or my eyes moving. So the fact that we're on Zoom and I'm looking at you is something I could not do at all 3 years ago. I would have had a screaming headache, migraine. It is just it feels like there's a rubber band wrapped there feels like there's hundreds of rubber bands wrapped around my head and the more that I expose myself to whatever thing is triggering it, there it's just more rubber bands are being added and it's just like so tight around my head. um the headache got to the point I decided to go back to work because I was like, I'm not that bad. I have a headache. I'm not that bad. I went back to work after short-term disability. And I worked for 2 years until I could not, I physically could not look at the computer anymore because it was so painful. Um, so I had to go back on short-term disability, and that was the last day that I worked.
well,
I had to go on long-term disability. I had regressed so bad that I had to go on long-term disability and I just didn't get better. It's been 3 years now. It's been I guess 2.5 years. I don't know. My timing's getting all mixed up in my head right now, but it's been quite a while that I have not been working now. And that is the only thing that has gotten me to start getting better because I'm not on the computer all day and doing these things. So I can't drive anymore. I can't ride a bike. I can't run. I can't watch TV, like you name it, things that are movement, and everything around us moves. So it's a very strange deficit to have. But thankfully, the people I love around me believe me because it's really hard to prove. The doctors don't know what's wrong. I have gone to vestibular therapy, vision therapy. I just finished up vestibular testing, and that was very painful, and they ended up diagnosing me with vestibular neuritis, which is bizarre because all of this started when I had my stroke. So I'm still
Wow.
in the process all this time later, and I think we're going to talk about that, about when do you
Yeah.
say when, you
Yeah.
know?
Right.
When do
Yeah.
you say, okay, I'm at a point, chronic pain wise, that I can live like this. It's okay. I can find joy in my life and despite the pain. And that decision is something that I'm still trying to figure out. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm curious, was there any physical limitations? I mean, left side or anything like that?
No, no, absolutely nothing. I don't look like I had a stroke. There's nothing. They tried to identify something with one of my legs, but I don't have any issues like walking or anything like
Okay.
that. No problems swallowing, no numbness, nothing like that. I'm very, very lucky in that way, you
Yes.
know.
Yes.
However, um, what I focus a lot on for my podcast is the invisible illnesses that we have as human beings, and this is just one of them. I had no idea that there were that many people around me having strokes that you couldn't see that there was something wrong with them, that they had a stroke. I had no idea until I was one of them.
Yeah. And there are a lot of us out there. I mean, it's 1 in 5 people are going to have a stroke. I mean, it's
Yeah,
just phenomenal. Um,
yeah.
the I notice you're wearing tinted glasses. Is the part of the issue ophthalmology? I mean, is it a sensory thing that causes these headaches?
Y- y- So it's a little of everything. Yeah, these
Okay.
are for my migraines.
Okay.
So light also bothers my migraines as well. So they call that vestibular migraines. Um, So, yeah. So another thing, and this is why I'm so adamant about talking about it, because the doctors didn't know what was wrong with me. And to this day, they point to each other. It's like I went to a neurologist. Now, I went to a general neurologist, which I had no idea until this past year that there's headache neurologist, stroke neurologist, neuro-otologist, like these specialties that that's really who we need to go to,
Yeah.
because the general neurologist is like, okay, let's try this medication, Well, I want to know what's wrong with me. I don't want to take a medication that you don't know what it's going to do to me.
Right.
Um, yeah,
Or the side
so
effects.
right, what are the side if it's not fixing my pain, what is it doing to me? Because I'm sure it's doing something. We don't
Right.
just put things in our bodies and it doesn't do anything. So I've been really leery about it, but there's like, again, that when do I say when is my pain manageable enough where if I meditate, if I do yoga, if I take a nap, I can manage, I can get it at that point where life is joyful.
Right.
I can find things that I can do. I am working on acceptance still because it's really to have a stroke at the age of 46. And I had big plans for my career. You know, I was going to be a VP and I was at the point where I was sitting in the president's office and working on corporate strategy. Like that was the stuff that I loved and I wanted to do. And I was constantly thinking about work. And then to be at that point, and I've heard this a lot from stroke survivors, to be at the point where um, I just have to let it go. I
Yeah.
just have to let it go. It's very, very difficult. And I've been in some stroke survivor meetings where, you know, a newcomer comes in and she's like saying, you know, I had everything and now I have to just let it go. And I'm trying to say, yes, me too, me too. But when we're dealing with it within ourselves, it's like, no, you don't understand. You don't
Right.
understand but I do understand. And so these survivor groups are so freaking important. I'm also a part of a vestibular support group as
Oh, wow.
well, which yeah, and I came across that from my own research. I think you and I touched on that, like how much do we depend on professionals and how much work do we have to do ourselves to figure out, like to identify with other people. And I ran across an article um that said vision challenges with vestibular disorders. And um, it was me. It was describing me. It with the not being able to go to my daughter's soccer game and watch the ball go back and forth made me nauseous.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, so so I reached out to the author of that article, which was a professor at Stanford, and it was her husband that she was talking about. And so I got to talk to her husband and we traded stories about this weird disorder where things that move make us sick and cause headaches and stuff. So it turned out that um, everybody that I've talked to so far, and I have a lifetime of people that I get to talk to, um, mine is a little worse than what these people have been dealing with. My vestibular support group, mine, everybody else gets to be on the camera looking at each other. And if you notice, I look away most
Yeah.
of the time that I'm talking to you because it's triggering in my head. But it's something I'm used to and I've learned how to accommodate. So everybody else gets to look at the screen and I can't because we're all different. Just like all of our strokes are different, vestibular disorders are different, and I have to acknowledge that when I'm going to these doctors and they're like, I don't know what's wrong with you. You know, I
Yeah.
have to understand that our bodies and our brains, they just haven't figured it out yet.
Yep.
And who knows when they're gonna. So complex we are.
Yes, exactly. And especially the brain part. Would it
Yeah.
help if I took off my video for you?
No, no,
Okay,
I enjoy getting that at
good.
least some visual feedback. Yeah. So,
Well, I guess you mentioned that, our strokes are different, our recoveries are different, but there's some things that are similar to um, becoming a little more authentic or um, uh, vulnerable to listening
yeah,
to other support survivors, the stroke support groups. I mean, the mental health part that they didn't tell us about or warn
yeah,
us about has become so important. You've got an interesting background that got you through a lot of that mental health.
that's right.
Do you mind sharing that?
No, no, I want to share about it because it is so important to my recovery. So, I'm a recovering alcoholic and I have been sober for about 8.5 years. So,
God bless.
April thank you, April of 2016 is my sobriety date, April 28th. And it's really been fascinating that my journey in stroke recovery has mimicked my sobriety journey, in that in both situations, I reached a point where I had to stop and I had to say, I can't live like this anymore. My life is unmanageable. I need help. And just like with before I got sober, I was pushing the limits with my stroke. I went back to work and I'm like, it's not that bad. Just like when I was drinking, I'm not that bad. Well, I was that bad. I was drinking 24/7 and I just stopped showing up for life. I stopped showing up to work. I stopped everything. And so I am so grateful that I am a recovering alcoholic, because if I wasn't, I have a strong feeling that I would not have this type of strong recovery um, for my stroke as well, because I know what to do. It's like, no, it's still hard. It sucks actually on some
Yes.
days, but I know that when I have a bad day, that a good day is going to follow. And I know that through experience. I know that the greatest way for me to recover is to not do it by myself. And I realized when I had to leave my job that the best thing I can do right now is find people like me. If I didn't have sobriety, I wouldn't know that. I would
Yeah.
have been very lost and trying to depend on my mom and my sister and my husband for, you're going to be all right, Rachel, you're going to be all right. How do I know that? I don't know that. But now that I have these stroke support groups and really practicing these principles in all of my affairs, that's what I'm doing. I'm using my sobriety program to accept what has happened in my life and let go of the stuff that I can't control. Ralph, it's everything that I've learned in there, everything that
Well, yeah, it's like
is.
9 of the 12 steps apply to our stroke recovery. You
That's
know,
right. That's
it,
exactly right. And there are some of the things that I have always, it's a work in progress, not perfection. I have all the sayings and stuff, but some of those steps that I was challenged with before my stroke are stronger now. Some of the stuff about relying on a higher power and stuff like that, like, I've been trying to figure that out. For me and my story, I've been trying to figure that out. But when I got to the point that I lost my job, and this stuff chokes me up, I'm surprised I haven't cried yet. But when I got to the point where I lost my job and I was looking at the my life's worth, my life's purpose. It was all gone. From what I saw, everything was gone. And I thought, I have two kids in their 20s. They'll always be kids to me.
yeah.
And I'm like, what else do I have? I don't I don't know what my purpose is anymore. And so I had a mission to figure that out. And I did get to the point, just like I did in sobriety, where I needed professional help because I was sinking fast. So I did get a psychiatrist. I had never seen a psychiatrist before. I had only seen counselors and addiction
Right.
therapists and stuff. So I wanted to try it, really, honestly. I wanted to try it, see what the experience was like. It was a little different. It was a little more textbook, and I
Right.
liked it. I liked that. I liked that she was um young, so she was pulling a lot of that stuff that she learned in school, and I was fascinated by it. I had this big notebook. I had a Trapper Keeper. You remember Trapper
Oh yeah,
Keepers
yeah,
back in
yeah.
the day? Yeah.
I
So,
still have one for my drawings. Yeah.
yeah. So I have a Trapper Keeper, and it is full of my homework for my psychiatrist. She gave me like, here's a worksheet, write down everything that you love. Now put a check beside everything you can still do that doesn't cause you pain. Now do each one and try it and see what does it, do for you? How do you feel? But then alongside that, I wrote down my values, my life's values. And I think that is such an important thing for us to do, is to actually treat our lives as if it is a business. Okay. Hear me out. So I used to love doing corporate strategy at work, and um, I decided I was going to try to do the same thing with my life now that I lost my job. What are my values? What is my mission? What is my purpose? And figure out a strategy for living. And I did that. I wrote it all down. I'm an overachiever. But then what we did was we aligned my values with the stuff I like to do. So I never sewed, but my mom sewed when I was younger, and I used to sit in her sewing room on the floor and talk to her. Well, apparently I picked up a lot of stuff because I can sew. So I started sewing quilts. So, the very first thing that I did in stroke recovery was I sewed a quilt for an a man that was an executive at the company that I had been working for that I lost. He had ALS, and he was dying,
Oh,
and I just lost the job affiliated with that. So my values all came together, and I sewed a quilt for him. And it gave me everything that I needed at that time. It gave me purpose. It aligned with my values, and it was a way for me to still feel a part of that company. Um, he has since passed away, and I have a bit of gratitude that during his last year, I was able to be at home and not working and engage with him. We sent emails back and forth in his last year or so. So I try to find those things to be grateful for. And
yeah.
that's a big one. That was a big one where everything just was obviously aligned for me.
What a perfect 12th step.
Yeah, exactly. See?
Yeah, it's amazing to me the things you're saying. It's like the correlation's
It
amazing.
it is, and I'm in the process because we all want to write a book of our lives, right? I am writing a memoir, and that is the theme of the book is how did I apply my sobriety program to my stroke recovery?
Yeah.
Because it works. I mean, it just works for me, and I want to share that with whoever wants to read it. That's what I talk about in my podcast too. It's the same thing. I think that a lot of us, when we are survivors and we can still talk and we can still do things that others that had the stroke can't do. We want to speak for all of us and share the message that life is not over when we have a stroke. And I know you and I talked about that's why you like to do it, and that's why I want to do it too. And just so passionate about it. It has given me purpose
Oh
back.
yeah, I mean, we have to, because nobody, we didn't know what we didn't know, first of all.
Yeah, yeah.
And
Mm-hmm.
how many times were we told this is as good as it's going to get?
Yeah,
It took me
yeah.
7 years, but I don't use cane or anything. I can run on a treadmill, you know,
Yeah, that's fascinating.
and I could barely walk for years. So,
Wow.
I mean, our bodies have enormous capabilities, and our mind does too, to
Yeah.
relearn. I'm curious though, what inspired you to start the Recovery Daily podcast, and what is its primary mission?
Yeah. So the day the day that I stopped working, um, I shut my computer. I told my boss, this is it. I can't do it anymore. And he was so understanding, such a great company that I worked for. I walked outside, I sat on my front porch and I sobbed. Like I sobbed, I sobbed, I sobbed. I walked back in and I texted my brother, my older brother, and I said, "Can you please open a Spotify account for me?" I don't know why, Ralph. I don't know why. I did not aspire to be a podcaster or anything. I don't know why I did that, but I knew that I had my voice. So I was sitting outside and I was like, what do I have left? That's what I was thinking when I was sobbing. What do I have left? And the answer was, I have my voice, because I lost it when I was having my stroke. And I'm like, I have my voice. I was given my voice back in that hour in the ER. So I thought, that's whatever I do, I have to use my voice. And that's why I texted my brother and I said, "Can you start me a Spotify account?" Because I couldn't do it because I couldn't look at the computer. So he's like, yeah, he and his daughter um got me all hooked up with a Spotify account. And in the beginning, was not using the camera or anything. It was painful. I'm not gonna lie. It was painful for me to get the episodes uploaded, but I just had to do it. I had to record what I was feeling emotionally, physically, because I knew I can't be the only one in the world who has this kind of pain and these symptoms and stuff. And if I don't talk about it, I don't know what's going to happen to me. I'm going to wither away emotionally. So I did it so that my pain wasn't for nothing, so that it wasn't just for nothing. So I'm sharing it. And my first episode was very awkward and I cried. It's still online. It's the first episode, and I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm just recording this. And so it's really been a wild journey. And the purpose, the mission, I told my husband that if I can help one person, I feel choked up again. If I can help one person through my pain, then all of it's worth it.
Exactly.
So that I'm not just, my pain is not just dying with me, is just not for nothing. And since then, every time I get a message from somebody, an email, um, uh, I have a bunch of people in sobriety that listen to my podcast. And I talk more about sobriety than I do about stroke recovery, because it's almost like all intertwined. I'm in stroke recovery um, while I practice the sobriety program, but I have those folks reach out to me. And every time I get another message about somebody who says, like, Oh, you're a part of my daily routine. I listen in the mornings while I put my makeup on or something. My husband says, "You just accomplished your goal again."
Yes,
Every time. So it's really rewarding, and it's been nice to be able to build a new network. I
yeah,
miss working and having all those people, but I'm building new relationships, and
yeah.
that's been nice too.
Oh, and community means so much in recovery, both.
Yeah,
I mean, for sobriety and for the stroke, or
yeah,
any real major health event. So
yeah.
that's incredible that you're doing that. Do you have like a target audience, or and what are they? Can people expect to gain from listening to you?
Yeah, so the target audience, I was battling with that because I didn't know why I was doing it. I was just doing it, in the beginning. And then I started thinking about that type of businessy stuff. And I'm like, yeah, well, the target audience is anybody who's recovering from anything. And and as I'm doing, so I record every single day unless my pain is so much that I can't, or I have some other life altering event that happens. But I record every day, and what I think you can gain from what I'm talking about is how do we how do we take our experiences and turn them into lessons? And that applies to anyone.
Yeah,
It does. I mean, I talk a lot about sobriety, so those folks seem to flock towards it. But I have some people who listen, and they are not stroke survivors and they're not in sobriety. They just love the positivity and the ability to listen to somebody who wakes up one day and is like, I'm in so much pain, but this is what I'm gonna do. I have some goals for the day, and I feel inspired as soon as I hit record that I want to be an example of how to do this life thing when things are really, really hard. So my audience is really geared towards people in recovery from sobriety, stroke, but
life.
they're like, yeah, exactly. But I say all the time on there, everybody's recovering from something. People are recovering from freaking going to work and getting in an argument with one of your coworkers. That takes time to recover from.
Yes,
And there's stuff that I talk about in there.
there's we have we've all had childhood traumas that we still fight with. I mean, there's all
Yeah,
kinds of things that and you have to get through that. I mean,
yeah.
how do you select your themes and topics? Or is it just winging it? Because I like winging it. You know,
Yeah.
I mean, I've
So
thrown
in
away the questions we had because I just love what we're talking about.
yeah, I okay, so here's the thing. In the beginning, I couldn't wing it because my cognitive
Okay,
deficits inhibited me from being able to start a sentence and remember what the sentence was by the time I get to the end of the sentence.
okay,
Could not I just could not hold a conversation. Um, today I still am challenged by it sometimes. And so for my podcast now, I have notes. I have like bullet points to guide
okay.
me so I don't forget what I'm talking about, which is, it's kind of feels like what happens when you get older, but it's multiplied. It happens all day long, every day, that forgetting things. The topics are a lot of times what my morning meeting was about. So I go to a 7 a.m. sobriety meeting and an 8 a.m. sobriety meeting. That started when in stroke recovery because one meeting wasn't enough, because I was so down in the dumps that I needed to. So today, I get my coffee, let my dogs out, and I sit in these meetings for a couple hours and I just take notes. I take notes about how this applies to my life and my stroke and sobriety and things that have happened. Um, you talk about childhood trauma. I don't feel that I had a lot of childhood trauma, but when I think about my childhood, I think about a depression that was sitting inside of me all that time. And I didn't know until my 20s that I was really struggling from an invisible illness that needed to be treated. And I tried to treat it with alcohol. That didn't work, but I sure tried for a really, really long
Yeah,
time.
yeah. I tried it with drugs. So yeah, and
Yeah,
alcohol. So, but yeah,
yeah.
it's
But those are the topics. Yeah, the topics
yeah,
are really aligned with those meeting topics. And then there's sometimes that something's bothering me and I need to talk about it.
perfect.
So, yeah, I do keep a bit of privacy on there. If I have something going on in my family, I don't use anybody's names unless the only person's name I use is my daughter because she's the only guest I've ever had. So she's given
Okay,
her name. But
okay.
that's going to change, Ralph. I think that you're going to be my first real guest ever if
Awesome.
you're
I love
willing.
it.
If you're willing.
Oh,
It's
absolutely. I love
it's
sharing this stuff. I mean, it's 12
yeah.
step. You can't keep it unless you give it away, you know.
Absolutely. And there's only one other person I've met so far. That's not true. There's no, there's only one other person I've met who is a recovering, like somebody in recovery who had a stroke. There's somebody in my vestibular support group who is a recovering alcoholic, but he's a California sober. I don't do that, so he doesn't count.
Okay. Excuse me. Well,
Yeah.
we're running out of time for this session, so
Okay.
that's a subliminal suggestion. We're going to do this again soon, but
I would
where?
love it. I'd love it.
Yeah, me too. Where can everybody access Recovery Daily Podcast?
Thank you. Yeah. So I have a website, recoverydailypodcast.com, where you can access the listen on Spotify, but it's everywhere. If you put in Recovery Daily Podcast, it's on Spotify, Apple Podcasts. It's on YouTube, where if you're on YouTube, you get to enjoy the video as well. You get to enjoy this. I definitely wake up right in the morning and do it. So there's no, beautification happening. Warning. But
That's the
yeah,
real
it's
person.
everywhere.
The real
Yeah,
person
yeah.
hosts the show, right?
You get the authentic self. Yeah,
So can
thank
they
you.
engage
It's
at all through social media too, or is it?
Yes, yeah, you're asking all the good questions that I don't remember to say. I am on Instagram, Facebook, all that good stuff, all that new stuff too. I'm on
Yeah.
Blue Sky and X and all
Oh my
kinds of
gosh,
stuff.
you're
Yeah,
all
so
over the place.
I try to be everywhere. I have a process when I upload a podcast. I shoot it out everywhere. So if anybody wants to contact me, I love it. I love talking to people. And you can reach me on any of the social media on my website, or you can email me at rachel@recoverydailypodcast.com.
That's incredible. Well, thank you so much for today. And like
Thank
I
you,
said,
Ralph.
I really want to do this soon again. So let's
Okay,
talk.
I'm available. I have a very wide open schedule these days.
Well, good for you. I wish that were true. We'll talk a little more after I stop the recording, but you have a fantastic day.
All right, thank you.